from the perspective that Dominic has put forward of the purpose of self-consciousness.
Yes, hello everyone. We are going now to have a few thoughts shared on the purpose of self-consciousness. This is more like in line with what we heard, but stressing some specific points that explain why we are self-conscious as human beings. Can we have the next slide? We know that according to Theosophy, everything is conscious in nature. Atoms, plants, animals, human beings, and even beyond those divine beings we don't see. But we know that humans have these very specific characteristics that differentiate him from the other forms of life. He is conscious of himself. He is aware of being conscious. He is, in other words, a self-conscious being. So this is, of course, a very important characteristic. We can, of course, think of the all these animals or plants or whoever. In fact, if we take, for instance, the animals, we know that the animals follow their instincts, but man has the power to determine his action, and we'll go more into that. The animals cannot, because they follow the what is pushing them in their instinctual approach. Of course, man has instincts, but he has, of course, this power of thought of manas that we just heard about. Can we have next slide? Yes, thank you. So what are the implications of this self-consciousness? First, a few words on the origin of self-consciousness. We know it's a topic in Theosophical teachings, which is very difficult to approach and to go very deep into. However, we can give a few thoughts along this line. If you refer, for instance, to what we find in the summing up of the first volume of the Secret Doctrine, taking from the article, the 12 Signs of the Zodiac by Subba Row, there is this set of definitions of the Shaktis, the forces in nature. And we have one of them, which is called Jñāna Shakti, and it's the power of intellect, of real wisdom. And here is what Subba Row wrote, and that HPB takes as a quote: when placed under the influence of material conditions, this Shakti, this force of nature, manifests as different things. First, the power of mind to interpret sensations. Then the power of memory and having future expectations. Then also the idea of being able to generate the notion of an external object. And then what is also very important in our context, the power of connecting ideas together by the link of memory and generate the notion of self or individuality. So we see this notion of self or individuality is in fact this specific connection that there is between the mind, the source of mind in nature and ourselves, working in a certain material, under certain the influence of certain material conditions. We said in other words that we find in philosophy, we can say the perceiver within us, the monad, starts perceiving with the level of the vehicle called manas, the mind, when this manas wakes up through this process, which still remains mysterious. It awakens in us the sense of self, as we heard, within, and it is a self-analyzing power. Let's see what implications we can draw from this self-consciousness. There are several things we can say. This power allows us to take a step back from our life, our actions, our instruments, our feelings, our body, our habits, so we can examine them. They can become objective to us somehow. Even if it's subjective internally, but we can examine them. We can have also the notion of past, present, and future, which is, of course, not possible for the animals or the other forms of life. We can regarding the actions, we have the power of choice, the power to decide. We have in this slide the idea of freedom. H.P. Blavatsky says that man is a free agent on earth. She says in the Secret Doctrine on the section on karma. We can use our free will going beyond our habits and inclinations. But also we have to remember that we carry with this power of action the notion of responsibility in all our actions that we initiate. We know this, but it's just we remind us of that. We create karma by the interactions with others, not only human beings, but also all forms of life. Man has a special responsibility on Earth. He's at the head of evolution on this stream of evolutionary stream, and he is leading all the forms of life on Earth. We have also to learn and understand the context of our actions and their potential effects and outcome, so that we gradually develop knowledge and experience. Of course, we know that if we listen to Patanjali's yoga aphorisms, we know that the soul, the existence of the soul is for the experience and the emancipation of the soul, the purpose of the world. So we are here to learn and to gather experience. Next slide, please. So this is an illustration of what we could say this power of self-consciousness also is giving us, offering a door to a kind of inner life. We are able, as it was mentioned in the previous topic, we are able to ask ourselves, what am I? Where do I come from? Where do I go? These are existential questions that are very important because, of course, beyond the everyday ordinary life, we should at some point realize that we are not here just to enjoy this ordinary life and all the sensory experience. We have to realize that this power of self-consciousness leads us to look for answers within ourselves. And this is what I call the door to inner life. We have to try to realize what is the relationship we have with the other forms of life. We have to try to realize, according to our declaration, the ULT declaration, the self of all creatures, that we are like rays from the spiritual sun, central spiritual sun. So gradually we have to open this door to inner life. So this is only possible because we have this power of self-consciousness, self-introspection, if we want. Next slide, please. In the end, why are we involved in this process of life? We can recall to what HPB writes in the third fundamental proposition of the Secret Doctrine. She says that we are, as monads or spiritual souls, we are sparks from the oversoul. Sparks in the sense that there is no separation between this center of consciousness that we manifest inside and this oversoul, which is the accumulated experience from previous cycles and that collect or gathered all the collective experience. We are, as spiritual souls or sparks, we are undergoing an obligatory pilgrimage through the cycle of incarnation in accordance with the cyclic and karmic law. This is what she states in this third fundamental. In other words, she says, no divine soul can have an independent existence before the spark passes through elemental forms of this cycle of existence and has acquired individuality first by natural impulse and then by self-induced and self-divide efforts checked by its karma. So this is, of course, the keynote of this process, self-induced and self-devised efforts. This can only be done because we have this power of stepping back from our actions, of learning what are the consequences, and as we heard in the previous topic, trying to shift, what needs to be improved, what needs to be given up, the aspects that are unwanted, and of course start something new and this can only be done by really taking our evolution in our hands as human beings. We thus, she says, HPB says in the fundamental, we are thus ascending through all the degrees of intelligence. There is no privilege or special gift for anyone. We have to go through this process consciously. We can sum up as a practical conclusion that self-consciousness is a pillar on which rest the key doctrines where the evolutionary process of reincarnation and karma stands. And we have, as on the next slide, we have this quote from HPB, which Robert Crosby mentioned at the end of The Friendly Philosopher. I'm going to read it in English first and then in French, at the request of some of our friends. So every ego has the karma of past manvantaras behind him. The ego starts with divine consciousness. No past, no future, no separation. It is long before realizing that it is itself. Only after many births does it begin to discern by the collectivity of experience that it is individual. At the end of its cycle of reincarnation, it is still the same divine consciousness, but it has now become individualized self-consciousness. And in French, chaque ego a le karma des manvantaras passés derrière lui. L'ego commence avec la conscience divine, pas de passé, pas de futur, pas de séparation. Il lui faudra longtemps avant de réaliser qu'il est lui-même. C'est seulement après de nombreuses naissances qu'il commencera à discerner par la collectivité des expériences qu'il est individuel. À la fin de son cycle de réincarnation, il est toujours la même conscience divine, mais il est devenu maintenant de la conscience réfléchie, individualisée. Thank you.